My husband's friend's member is excessively large, genuine tale of betrayal. The evening I found myself in Liam's room turned into one of the most memorable nights of my life. It began on a seemingly uneventful Monday. I reclined in my bed, gazing at the ceiling, the rhythmic tick of the clock on my nightstand, counting each fleeting second. For weeks, restful sleep had eluded me. The bed loomed large, the void beside me a persistent reminder of my husband's frequent absences. He mentioned that his job kept him out late. Times he would simply not return, asserting that he was too exhausted from a client dinner or business trip to undertake the drive. I had long since abandoned any inquiries into it. Yet the encroaching silence that lingered felt foreboding, as though a fragment of my being had been quietly fading away without my awareness. Liam had been residing in our guest room for the past year. He and my husband shared a long-standing friendship, so when Liam found himself in need of a temporary home between jobs, I consented. As time passed, I began to observe aspects of him that had previously escaped my notice. He was now 24, possessing a certain strength in his physique, and he carried himself with a self-assurance that was impossible to overlook. The playful individual who once scattered soda cans all around had changed into someone entirely different, someone who made my heart race with a mix of confusion and, at times, a thrilling sense of the forbidden. I reprimanded myself for experiencing these emotions. What type of woman finds herself drawn to a friend living in her own home? Yet, the more I attempted to suppress these thoughts, the more powerful they grew. Late that Monday night, a subtle rustle of footsteps in the hallway shattered the silence. My heart raced and I paused, attuned to the fading sounds around me. It's only Liam, likely just looking for a drink of water. I reassured myself, but still my hands trembled. I clenched my eyes shut and summoned all my strength to find a sense of calm. He's merely a tenant, a companion. Yet the tension lingered on. I was unaware of the reasons, only that a change was occurring within me. The following morning I discovered Liam in the kitchen, propped against the counter with a steaming mug of coffee in hand. The sunlight streaming through the window accentuated the contours of his face, casting a delicate golden hue over his skin. He looked up as I entered, giving a faint smile. "Morning," he said in a low, slightly raspy voice. "Morning." I pushed myself to tinker with the coffee maker, avoiding the urge to keep glancing at him. "Did you have trouble sleeping last night?" he inquired. "What makes you say that?" I responded, taken aback. He shrugged, lifting the glass to his lips for a sip. "I noticed you restless in your sleep. I sensed that something could be troubling you." I emitted a laugh that was perhaps a bit too hasty. "There's a lot swirling around in my thoughts, I suppose." He nodded with a contemplative expression. "Same," he said. And that solitary word hung in the air, thick with an unspoken weight that neither of us dared to acknowledge. That afternoon I found myself in the living room, folding laundry while the TV softly hummed in the background. Liam lounged on the couch, idly scrolling through his phone. It ought to have been completely mundane. Yet my gaze continually wandered back to him. Do you ever take on the task of folding laundry? Or is that solely my responsibility? I playfully poked fun, attempting to stitch. Andy relaxed. He raised his head, a lopsided smile spreading across his face. "I believe that was your sole privilege. I wouldn't want to take it from you. Oh, you're infuriating," I retorted, tossing a crumpled sock in his direction. He seized it with a chuckle, then sent it soaring back in a soft, graceful curve. Okay, I'm here to assist." He slipped off the couch and knelt beside me. Grabbing a clean towel, he folded it with unexpected skill. I gazed at him with a hint of amusement. "It seems there's much I'm yet to discover about you," I noted. He cast a look my way, a warmth in his gaze that sent shivers down my arms. "You might be astonished by the extent of my capabilities when I put in the effort." My heart raced at his tone. His words carried a playful charm. Yet there was a deeper layer beneath the surface. I turned my gaze, concentrating on the crumpled t-shirt I held in my hands. "Well, let's see how consistent you are," I joked, trying to inject some humor into the moment, though my laugh came out a bit too light. "Anything to simplify your existence," he whispered. My cheeks flushed at the gentle quality of his voice. That evening I retired early, yet slumber eluded me. My husband was out again, leaving the bed beside me empty. As midnight crept in, I found myself alone in ways I hadn't fully recognized. The vision of Liam's subtle smile and the silent worry reflected in his eyes lingered in my mind. For countless months, I had been deprived of the sensation of being acknowledged. I came to understand that this was precisely the way Liam made me feel. Seen and cherished. Then arrived the moment I never anticipated. I sensed a stir in the hallway, and my heart skipped a beat. I had promised myself to stay in my room, to avoid any impulsive actions. Yet, an unseen force within me urged me onward, pulling me from the warmth of my bed and guiding me down the quiet corridor. Until I found myself before Liam's partially ajar door. My thoughts shouted at me to turn back, but I opened the door regardless. A soft glow from a muted lamp painted shadows across the walls. Liam's back was slightly turned. He perched on the edge of his bed, his shoulders taut. My breath caught as I realized he was holding something in his hands, a small photograph, seemingly of me. The edges appeared somewhat frayed, as if he had been caressing it for solace. He was completely unaware of my arrival. I observed him glide his thumb softly across my face in the image, a gesture that felt almost tender. My chest constricted with a surge of disbelief, intrigue, and an unexpected, disquieting excitement. "As that you, Liam?" I murmured. Startled, he spun around abruptly, the photo slipping from his grasp upon catching sight of me. A look of shock momentarily crossed his features, quickly replaced by a blush that suggested a hint of embarrassment. He hurried to grab the picture, clutching it to his chest as if to conceal it. I apologized that I didn't intend to. His voice faded away. My heart raced so intensely, I believed he could sense it. I closed the door behind me and moved ahead. "That's a picture of me," I murmured softly. "Where did you acquire that?" He swallowed, his gaze flickering elsewhere. "A couple of years ago. It was taken at a barbecue. I found myself with it in the end, and I held on to it." He hesitated, his voice fading to a whisper. I apologized. "I understand it might seem unusual. Sometimes I look at it and wonder if you feel content. You appear liberated in this image." Heat engulfed my face. I ought to have felt anger or been unsettled. Yet his confession tightened around my heart. "What makes you believe I'm not content?" I compelled a fragile chuckle. "I'm in a committed relationship. I possess a lovely residence, and I follow a structured daily schedule." He sat there, shoulders slumped, meeting my gaze with an intensity that shook me to my core. "I believe you deserve more," he murmured softly. "And I realize I might not be the best person to say that. Yet, whenever I encounter you, I feel an absence, as if you bear the burden of the world by yourself." I sought to reject it, yet the words eluded me. Instead, I found myself moving closer, captivated by the raw vulnerability reflected in his eyes. I settled onto the bed beside him, careful not to encroach on his space. The photograph lingered tightly in his grasp. Faint illumination unveiled my visage on that tiny sheet of paper, grinning in a fleeting instant I scarcely recalled. I whispered, still stunned, "You keep my picture. What is the reason?" His eyes darted to the ground. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." My stomach flipped. For a brief instant, silence enveloped us both. The stillness enveloped us, punctuated only by the rhythm of our breaths, uneven and electric. Outside, the house was eerily silent. For a moment, it seemed as though the whole universe had contracted to encompass only the two of us in this close, wobbly space. "Liam," I started, my voice quivering. "You know I'm married." He offered a subtle nod, breathing out unsteadily. "I understand. I really dislike the possibility of this being incorrect. However, I don't dislike the way I feel when I'm with you." Everything within me came apart. Before I could hold back, my fingers grazed his forearm. He released a shuddering breath, turning his hand palm up, allowing our fingers to intertwine. The connection was charged, as though it validated countless unvoiced emotions. I've attempted to brush it aside. I confessed, my heart racing in my chest. "I attempted to act as if you're merely a friend, or perhaps an old acquaintance of my husband. However, I can no longer deceive myself. I feel a sense of solitude. And you make me feel acknowledged." He tightened his grip on my hand, drawing me nearer. The warmth of his body surrounded me, and a surge of desire sparked within my veins. We were near enough now that I could see the subtle stubble on his jaw, the quick rise and fall of his chest. "I don't want you to feel alone anymore," he said gently, his words straightforward yet brimming with feeling. shattered the final strand of my composure. I leaned in, pressing my lips to his distracted kiss that it was soft at first, both of us unsure, hearts racing with a blend of thrill and trepidation as he returned the kiss. It deepened, and I became lost in the intense sensation of it. My hand wandered to the back of his neck, his fingers intertwining with my hair. We separated for a moment, struggling to catch our breath. His eyes darted to the photograph still resting in his lap, then returned to me. A tremulous laugh slipped from my lips, a blend of sob and relief. I can hardly believe this is happening. He pressed his forehead gently against mine. I've envisioned it countless times. My heart contorted that I ought not to feel joy about that, I murmured. However, I am. The ensuing moments melded into a haze of intertwined bodies and whispered gasps. The pang of betraying my marriage surged through my thoughts, yet it was overshadowed by an intense longing to be wanted, to be desired. For the first time I experienced a sense of vitality, as if my heartbeats were truly my own once more. And from the way Liam held me, it felt as though he shared that same intense spark of desperation. In the end, we found ourselves lying side by side on his bed, the photograph resting quietly by the pillow, a mute observer of our hidden truth. I could scarcely fathom the events that had just unfolded, realizing that I had ventured into territory I never imagined I would dare to explore. Outside, the soft illumination of the moon seeped through the curtains, creating fragmented lines of light that danced across the walls. What comes next? I inquired softly, my fingertips gliding over his forearm. He trembled at the contact, yet he remained still. I'm not sure, he admitted, tilting his head so our gazes could connect. I simply know that I have no regrets about this. A tear rolled down my cheek, born from a mix of relief, fear, and a glimmer of hope that I didn't either. I managed, though my voice faltered. However, everything is set to change now. He nodded, a tapestry of concern weaving itself across his brow. I understand. I apologize if I've complicated things for you. I quieted him with a gentle kiss, allowing my lips to express what my words could not. We stayed there for a while, in delicate tranquility. Two souls ensnared in a fleeting moment they both understood couldn't endure indefinitely to last. I managed to lift myself up. The clock on his nightstand indicated it was just after 3 in the morning. I should go, I whispered, the realization settling in that I had to return to my own bedroom before dawn. Could we have a conversation tomorrow? We must find a solution to this. He nodded, rising to sit alongside me. With a tender motion, he lifted the photograph and carefully placed it in the drawer of his nightstand, as if safeguarding a beloved secret. My eyes remained fixed on that drawer, my cheeks flushing at the notion that he had been holding my image just moments before I entered. I'll be here, he said plainly. I hesitated at the threshold, glancing back for one final glimpse. The yearning in his gaze rendered departure nearly unfeasible. I closed the door softly, every step towards my room stirring up new currents of doubt and a forbidden excitement. I pondered whether the silence of the home would somehow expose my treachery. The weight of guilt settled in my chest, yet alongside it flickered a small spark of euphoria. Throughout the night, slumber continued to evade me. My thoughts swirled with uncertainty. Should I feel a sense of shame? Should I share this with my husband? Should I stay with him or walk away? Would Liam and I ever really find our way to each other? I was unable to respond to any of them. All I knew was that the void I had experienced had, for one night, been filled by a sense of connection I hadn't realized I needed so profoundly. In the days that followed, we moved cautiously around each other in the daylight, exchanging glances in the kitchen or living room that conveyed more than mere words ever could. In the quiet of night, when solitude enveloped us, our feelings would surge forth once more. Kisses taken in secret behind closed doors, whispered truths shared in the dim light, fingers grazing softly beneath the table. It was exhilarating, daring, and shrouded in mystery. A part of me longed to bring it to a close, to distance myself from him before the situation deteriorated further. Yet another aspect, the one that marked the beginning of warmth after an extended period, clung to Liam as if he were my final lifeline. I remain uncertain about what lies ahead. My husband is completely unaware. I find myself caught in a struggle between the weight of my marriage vows and the undeniable connection that has developed between Liam and me. I can't hold him responsible. This was my decision as well. All I know is that, for the first time in ages, I feel wanted, desired, and achingly alive. What should I do? A tiny piece of me wishes that someone might provide the answers I seek but cannot find. Another part of me questions whether I will ever possess the strength to do what is right, whatever that may entail.